Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening for all of you either watching the live stream right now or afterwards on YouTube or listening to the podcast that will be out soon. A warm welcome to the Cricket Show, and it's a warm welcome to Prasen. Prasen, good afternoon to you. How are you, my friend?
Hi Bharat, I'm very well. Thank you so much. Good to see you after a very long time. I think it's been a long time since we last spoke after the IPL. So thanks for having me again.
No, absolute pleasure as always. And yeah, it's been a couple of weeks, but it's good to have regular cricket back on our screens. International cricket, that is. We've enjoyed the IPL. Now we're down to back to the bread and butter of international cricket. And I think the main starting point for me, especially living where I am in Leicester, was seeing the crowds back in the stadiums.
Absolutely. I think here in India, we were very confused about how that was going to work because we didn't expect the crowds to come in this early, especially given the way the pandemic has swept around the whole globe, so to say. But to see the way the crowds have come in and enjoyed the cricket, I think it's a bit of relief for the cricketers as well. It's an extra impetus for them to do well and perform in front of a crowd. And we even saw a proposal at the Sydney Cricket Ground, so it can't get better than that, I guess.
Yeah, that person must have been under a lot of pressure to do that, but fair play to him. She said yes, so he was ended up well for him. Yeah, that was a good moment there. But I was looking at the rules for allowing crowds, and as you know, from this weekend, this week actually, after Wednesday here in England, crowds are back if you're in Tier 2 in football matches. And I was looking at the regulations for the cricket in Australia, and I think they're quite fair actually in terms, they're 50% limits at Sydney, I think, and 60% in Canberra. But in terms of people who buy the tickets, sit together, but they've got to allow for spacing. There's directions around the stadium. So there's not congregations. So I think they managed it really well. But for me, it was the noise and seeing the flags. It just brought it back. The crowds are a huge part of any sporting event.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Crowds are very important to what the cricket is because when we saw the last time West Indies played England and then Pakistan played, it was a little bit off. There was something that was going wrong. And obviously, the whole point of that was that there was no crowd, there was no one to cheer the players on. There weren't any reactions that were elicited every time a ball went for four or went for six or there was a wicket. So, but now with crowds back, it gives the players a lot more to play for. It gives us as spectators from back home so much to cheer about. You can see those emotions on the screen. You can connect with those emotions. So it's a whole. It's good to see that cricket is returning to the normalcy for sure. But I think for the last two T20s, if I'm not wrong, there are obviously contrasting reports, but I'm hearing that there might be 100% crowds allowed for the last two T20s. So if that's the case, it might be something special, but I'm still not too convinced about how they're planning to evade the whole coronavirus issue, because it's not like they're going to test every single person completely when they come into the stadium. So I'm just hoping nothing untoward happens, because it did happen during the South Africa versus England match that had to be called off. So I'm just hoping nothing untoward happens and we have two good games of cricket before the Test series.
Yeah, absolutely. But and we'll see how it goes tomorrow. I wasn't aware of the 100%, but it'll be interesting if Cricket Australia do that. But I think the contrast you made, the IPL without the crowd, it was still a brilliant spectacle. But the contrast you made between the England-Pakistan series and the current Australia-India series, I think, was an excellent point, in the sense that the players do feed off the crowds, and the emotions are obviously reflected on how the crowd is reacting as well. So that was good to see, especially with a passionate captain that we have. I think he feeds off the supporters in the stadium. And how different it was when England played Pakistan. So that was really good to see, and we'll see how it goes tomorrow. But fair play to Cricket Australia for bringing back the crowds. We'll see how it goes today in the English Premier League. I know the lower leagues had a few thousands. I think there's a capacity of 2,000 per stadium here at the moment if you're in Tier 2. Leicester is still in Tier 3, so we won't be able to see any football very soon. But it was brilliant to see in Australia the crowds coming back, and a majority of them, as always, when India play anywhere outside India, they get incredible support. But despite that support, what went wrong in the first two games? I mean, you can't say anything, but we were totally outplayed in those first two games. Was it? Well, let me hear your thoughts on what went wrong first.
Yeah, I think it really started off with the way we bowled. It's never ideal to chase targets of 370 plus, 390. I mean, despite having some of the best batsmen in the game, it really puts a batting side under pressure. And there's always a right way to go about it. And us as armchair experts, we can sit at home and make all the assumptions we want. But the truth of the matter is, T20 cricket is obviously there's a stark contrast in the way batsmen approach the T20 format versus the ODIs. And I think I said this upfront as well, that, we have a much better chance of winning the T20 series when compared to the ODIs, because it just seems like, the Indian batsmen didn't have that patience that is required in the ODI format. Most of them got starts. We saw Mayank Agarwal got a start, Virat Kohli got a start, but all of them ended up throwing the wicket away, which is ideally not the case in ODI cricket, because you need to go the length. You need to go 50 overs. And if you can bat 50 overs, then it certainly makes a good case of you chasing down those big totals, how much ever they might be. But that wasn't the case. The batsmen kept throwing away the wickets. And I think that was the biggest issue with the team. And good to see that we managed to pull off one win. But I think that is solely down to the way the bowlers bowled. And obviously that fantastic partnership between Pandya and Jadeja, without which India wouldn't have even crossed the 300 run mark to begin with.
It's interesting you mentioned the fact that the players were still in T20 mode, but how come the Australians weren't? And should your team, Bengaluru, Punjab and Rajasthan, ask for a refund from Smith, Finch and Maxwell?
Well, I mean, we certainly were the butt of all jokes for sure. The RCB fans, no doubt about that. And I think the Kingsland Punjab fans also took their fair share of trolling. But I mean, that's the nature that, the home ground advantage brings for you. Maxwell himself spoke about it multiple times just before the third ODI as well. He spoke about how he loves playing in Australia, how he loves playing, in front of crowds, and how he can trust the bounce on the surface. So it was only natural to see that the Australians were going to do well. But the only thing the Indians probably didn't take out of the Australian batsmen's books, they didn't take a leaf out of their books, is that they didn't approach their innings right. If you see the Aussies as well, they picked the right bowlers to attack. They picked the gaps, whereas the Indian batsmen are going to go for broke in every single ball. And that just doesn't help in any match, especially not in the 50-over format. So it was very disappointing to say the least, but I think they'll take a lot of learning out of it. And that's why I said we have a really good chance in the T20 series.
On a couple of points, I mean, the Australian batsmen, I mean, they adapted incredibly. Obviously, you make a fair point about home conditions and playing in front of crowds. But Smith, Finch and Maxwell were definitely the difference. And I think if a team posts close to 400, the team chasing, it's going to struggle 9.5 times out of 10. It's one of those unique occasions when something clicks that you're going to chase down those scores. Do you think it was because of the nature of the tournament, in the sense that the preparation was in a bubble, no proper practice games, that the bowlers were just not on it straight away?
I don't think so. Well, I'll be honest, when just after the match, when Aaron Finch and Virat Kohli were speaking post India's loss, Kohli mentioned one thing, that Hardik Pandya's inclusion in the side, was going to be purely as a batsman, but he had to bowl because the Indian bowlers were erring in their line and length, and none of them were able to make a considerable impact. But when Hardik Pandya came on to bowl, what he did right was take pace off the ball. And in Australia, where you have flat decks, where you have the ball coming on so nicely onto the bat, if your bowlers hit hard lengths, there's no doubt that they're going to be taken to the cleaners. And that's what we saw, how well Moises Henriques did. He was the extra bowler for them, and the Indian batsmen didn't take him on. So, and I think the Australians learned well from the way Pandya bowled. What they did was they took pace off the ball, they bowled hard lengths, they bowled short. They used the Yorkers effectively, and they made a mix of everything basically. The Indian bowlers, on the other hand, kept bowling at length. They bowled in the slot, which was pretty easy for the Australians to hit away. So I think it's a whole learning curve, and let's not forget that the Indian team was not extremely good in the sense that the type of resources that they had, let's say, because Bhuvneshwar Kumar wasn't there. Obviously, Bumrah was off color, which wasn't ideal for India. So I think there are a whole lot of issues that they were there, but this is certainly a learning curve for the Indian bowlers, and hopefully they should learn quite a bit for them to utilize the same in the T20 series.
And what are your thoughts on Hardik playing as a batsman?
Well, I'm really a fan of Hardik, the batsman. You know, after Dhoni, I think hands down he's the best finisher. And obviously, I mean, I won't say that I'm a fan of just Hardik, the batsman, because he gives a lot more with the ball as well. I think he himself really likes the bowl. You can see the way he approaches his game on the field. He's a real match winner. He's a guy who plays for the team. He never really puts himself ahead of the team at any point. But he's someone who you can't miss out. I was really surprised with the way India found a way to really keep Chahal out of the playing 11 in the first T20, because I thought he was someone who should really be in the 11 at all times, and that's the way Hardik Pandya is an imperative part of the playing 11, and he's the finisher that probably India need now that Dhoni is not there. And good to see that Jadeja is getting some runs under his belt, but Hardik Pandya is going to be a very, very imperative part of the side. And even if he's just playing as a batsman, I'm all for it, because Hardik Pandya is a genuine match winner on any day.
Absolutely, and what he brings to the fielding as well, added to that, is incredible. And I think he's going to be a really, really important player building up for 2023. I know I made a comment about Ravi Jadeja playing all three forms, but he proved me wrong again, and I'm proud of the fact that he did. Just showing his utility as an all-rounder as well, and to have Pandya bowling soon, hopefully, I think that's just going to strengthen the team with those two all-rounders in the team. But in terms of the ODI teams and the changes they made, and you brought the name of Chahal up, and we'll be talking about Chahal because he was in the news, all over the news yesterday, although he wasn't in the starting 11. We'll talk about that in a bit. But in terms of the ODIs, as you know, the T20, the World Cup's not till 2023, but the ICC have created this new Super League. So the third game wasn't a dead rubber as it normally would be. It counts towards a ranking, and it was a good comeback. India made a couple of changes, well, 4 changes, but it would have given quite a bit of confidence winning that game.
Yeah, I think they were all certainly warranted changes because, obviously India had lost the series, and as you rightly mentioned, there was the World Super League that they needed to take care of. But again, there are so many resources in Indian cricket, and you might as well try the players out, given that they're in the squad, because they're as good as any others. Probably they're just lacking in a bit of experience, but that's what they bring to the fore. And we saw them. Natarajan did really well on his debut. Everyone was so happy to see him in blue. His journey is 1 in a million. I don't think. We'll have too many cricketers who can, put up their hand at 29, put 2 legs up in the air and say, you know what, I've made my India debut at 29, and to see his journey is fantastic. And Shubman Gill, he's such a pleasing batsman to the eye. I think we have spoken multiple times about what Gill brings to the party. And at the top of the order, he did look fluent before. Again, he threw his wicket away as well. And obviously, a couple of other changes. Saini didn't play, Mayank Agarwal didn't play. So a couple of changes. Kuldeep Yadav brought back into the side. I think it was a good move, but I'm afraid KKR have really, really put Kuldeep Yadav in a spot of bother. I'm not really too sure about his mental space. I'm just hoping, given that he brings variation, to the team, he's someone who should really be playing. But I'm not sure how they'll play him, considering that the balance that the team needs now with Pandya not being able to bowl. So. Good to see the changes made actually had an impact, but we'll need to see if they can be stabilized for the long run as well.
And one player, obviously, that was talked about a lot, the captain of the winning team in the IPL. What's the latest on Rohit, and what is the issue there? Is his injury such that he couldn't go with the squad? And
Well, I'll be honest with you, we're all pretty much left in the unknown. I mean, none of us really know what the idea is. A lot of contrasting reports. Some of them saying that Rohit wanted to fly back to Mumbai to be with his father, which is apparently true. But as per his injury, I mean, he himself came out and said that he was okay to play the last few T20s. But why he isn't playing the T20 series against Australia is something that needs to be answered. Probably he's not fit enough to play the Test series, and that's why he didn't want to be here just for the T20 series and then fly back. But I think the whole issue at the forefront is the fact that there's a miscommunication between the captain, the coach, and the board, and of course Rohit Sharma himself, because a captain and the coach are two of the most key factors of a team. And the way Virat Kohli spoke in the conference, which was available for the whole world to watch, he said, I have absolutely no idea what's happening. That's pretty much not how the team's supposed to be run. Because if you're the captain of the side and you're talking about Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma have such a good friendship. I mean, now obviously it might be tarnished, but what they've had over the years, they've built Indian cricket. They've been two major pillars of success for the team. And to see that I mean, Kohli has no idea of Rohit Sharma's whereabouts or what the injury status is. I think it really puts Indian cricket in a bad light, in my opinion.
yeah, and I agree. And I think I can understand from Rohit's point of view that if he wasn't consulted about his injury, whether he was fit to go, what he wanted to do, because he's such a crucial part of not just our ODI team, but building up to the 2021 T20 World Cup in India. He's going to be crucial for that, and there's not going to be a huge stack of T20 games. Obviously, there'll be the IPL, but if there's any issues in the dressing room, that's not good for Indian cricket.
Absolutely not, because he's going to be a huge player, and I think he was obviously going to take over the side in Virat Kohli's absence if he were to play the limited over series. I mean, Kohli won't be missing the limited over series, the last two T20s, but in case Kohli is not there, if India towards Sri Lanka come to India, and Kohli wants to rest himself, Rohit Sharma is the one who's going to be captaining the side. And now that he's put everyone in the dark, no one knows what's happening. Literally, there is absolutely not one media house in the whole country which is sure of Rohit Sharma's status, what he's thinking, what the board is thinking. No one has any answers. And I think, for people who've watched Scam 1992 on Sony Live, this is probably Scam 2020, which is right in front of our eyes. Across all channels, and Sony Lives broadcasting India, Australia. So I think 18 years later, we have Scam 2020, and hopefully the issue resolves soon, because I am really perplexed by the whole situation at hand.
Yeah, and it's very sad because he is a crucial part of our. Do you think the big support for him to take over the captaincy has affected Virat's friendship with Kohli, or is their friendship from the outside much stronger than that? Or does Rohit probably himself think, yeah, I should be leading this team now, I deserve that?
Well, I think fans have definitely been clamoring for Rohit Sharma to take over the T20I captaincy for a long time now, considering his success in the IPL. And it's no small fact that, Rohit Sharma is probably one of the best captains in the IPL, one of the best captains in T20 cricket history. And it's only warranted for people to want Rohit Sharma to take over that position. But Kohli, obviously, someone who's grown with the team. He has really taken Indian cricket to different levels. And I think you rightly mentioned that there might be something that's bothering Kohli, and that's really rubbing off on the way he plays his cricket. But I think it's just a matter of time before he gets back to form with the bat. Obviously, he looked decent in the ODI series. He obviously couldn't score too big, but he looked decent. He got very close to scoring a century, but unfortunately wasn't the case. And I really feel, for me personally, given the time that he spent with his wife and the time he spent with family, to come out and, to be expecting the first child, to be playing cricket, probably, when we spoke about how the IPL has probably softened Australian cricketers, in my opinion, the IPL has probably softened the Indian cricketers, because we're seeing KL Rahul is going and rubbing Aaron Finch's belly, and Virat Kohli is going and high-fiving all the Australian players. I mean, all of them are sharing a laugh. There is no real rivalry on the field. You can obviously keep all your celebrations and all your friendships off the field. I mean, I'd like to get your opinion on this because we've seen how very important it is for rivalries to fuel players. And the other day, Cameron Green, he made his debut for Australia, and he after the match he said, I was taken aback by how nice KL Rahul was to me behind the stumps, and that was a very very crucial point in the match where India could have taken ascendancy if Green had got out, but he probably got to settle in, and then Australia pretty much were very comfortable throughout. But what's your take on this? Are you a fan of on-field rivalries, or do you want to see these players keep their friendships on the field as well?
No. I'm a big fan of on-field rivalries. Obviously, there's a line you don't cross, but there has to be that passion that you want to win, and that friendliness does affect how you play. No matter what anybody says, if you pat somebody on the back or smile or high five, that doesn't give the right impression. And just to give you an example, the first time I saw that, because of the IPL, was Indian players and the West Indians. They became so friendly. And they were like, you'd think they were teammates internationally, let alone in the IPL. And now it's transferred to the Australians, who we did have. And it does, if you bring that passion onto the field, it does make a difference. Everybody talks about that 1%. 1% makes a difference, and that 1% is negative 1%. If you're going in there friendly with somebody, an opposition player, you don't want to say anything because he's your teammate or you played with against him in the IPL, and we see that. And when you were talking about that, it reminded me here of Leicester City and the players here. Just to give you a bit of an example. Some of the young players obviously grew up together playing junior football and for the national under-21s, under-19s, and we played a team called Aston Villa here, and we lost. And a couple of the players, Chilwell and Grealish, outside football are friends, very good friends. They go on holidays, you see their Instagram photos, and they were like talking and smiling. And Leicester City had just lost a game, and that did not go down well with me and the vast majority of Leicester City fans. You don't do that on the pitch. Once you're in the dressing room and changed and recovered, that's fine, but on the pitch you don't do that. And this was reflective of what was happening in the Australian series. It was very noticeable, and like I said, I first saw it when India were playing West Indies, and you saw the friendships and the big hugs and what have you. And it takes away that 1%, in my opinion, if you don't have that aggression. I don't know. As a nation, I think we are getting a bit soft. I think I've said it before. I like some of the players, young players, who have that aggression. A bit like Rishabh Pant and Ishan Kishan, and they have that arrogance. But if that goes away when you're playing cricket because you got a friend from the IPL, then it does affect your game slightly. So I'm with you on that one. I don't like to see it. I see it in the football and I don't like it. Save that for when you're on holiday or not playing against each other. I think, I'm totally against that. And it's not a good sign. But just going back to the Roy, just to end, we used to, back in the day, Indian cricket suffered badly with clicks. If you weren't in that clique, you weren't selected, or you suffered in the dressing room. Hope we're not going down that way with Rohit and any issues that him and Kohli have, because that's going to be to the detriment of the national team. Like I said, building up to the big World Cup next week, and Kohli, to be fair, does need to now win a tournament. He needs to win an ICC tournament just to finish off his CV. But just... I said I was going to end it there, but who would you have partner Rohit ideally in a T20 game? Would it be KL or would it still be Shekhar?
Look, I mean, I'm a huge KL Rahul fan. There's no two ways about it. And KL Rahul is obviously an imperative part of the Indian team now. He's the vice captain of the side. He's been given the duty with the gloves, and he's done a very good job at it. And I feel he's really been wasted low down the order if he's played at 5 or if he's played at even 4 for that matter of fact. And good to see that he's opening in the T20I series because alongside Shikhar Dhawan, obviously, look, I mean, I'm not saying Shikhar Dhawan's a bad player, but I don't think he's really done anything of note which will see him take over that spot for the T20 World Cup. He's had a great IPL, no doubt, but I think he's played only 4 good knocks out of 17 matches that he played in the IPL. So I'm not sure he's going to have that place for sure in the side. And I mean, his fielding's been a little iffy over the last few months, so to say, even including the IPL, if you look at it. And Kohli is someone who is really has a very big emphasis on the fielding and need to be fit on the field. So I don't see Shikhar Dhawan, being a very big part of the World Cup team. But given the whole saga between Rohit and Kohli and what's happening, I feel they might. I mean, Shikhar Dhawan might just make the squad, but I'm hoping it is Rohit and KL Rahul opening the batting.
I'm glad you agree because that's what I wrote down. I was sort of picking my ideal T20 team for the World Cup, first game in the World Cup, and I think I've only got 2 slots open, but I'll talk to you about that in a bit. But yeah, that'd be my ideal opening partnership, and this is why I thought it would have been good. I mean, we know what Shekhar can do, what he's done. He's been incredible for us, but I think it would have been a good opportunity to bring somebody like Devda to this tour. Young man who's going to be the future of Indian cricket, to give him a bit of an insight into international cricket, see how he performs. Obviously, it's not going to make or break his future career, but I think this would have been a good opportunity to have him as a third opener. Obviously, we've got Mayank as well. I mean, there's a whole host of players that can fill that role, but I think for the young man, it would have been good because we know what Shekhar can do. It might have been a good opportunity, but that's by the by. But moving to the game yesterday, and do you think this will be a quiz question as to a player that wasn't in the starting 11 yet won the man of the match?
Oh man, I think Indian fans are never going to let this go. I think
Nor the Australians.
especially the guy who. Oh, especially the guy who proposed to his Australian girlfriend, he's probably going to frame that and frame Chahal's photo as well, right next to that. And probably, but look, I mean, I'm sure that the decision that they took was certainly within the boundaries of the rules set by the ICC. And I think we'll all have our opinions about it. And but I honestly feel it's something that has really been blown out of proportion, so to say, by every single person, because it takes some time for the concussion to set in. I mean, people might argue that Jadeja wasn't attended to, and physio wasn't out there, and they didn't stretch him away. But sometimes it, the fatigue level that hits a player after the innings, and he's walking back into the dressing room. Once he goes back into the dressing room, it takes some time for that concussion to set in, and probably that's what really happened. And the match referees as well. David Boone obviously knew what he was doing. He's very experienced, and I think it was just something. It was written in Virat Kohli's destiny, probably, that Chahal, or even Chahal's destiny, that he was going to come in and produce a man of the match performance. But yeah, definitely going to go down as one of the brightest moments, so to say, in Indian cricket history.
We're usually the receiving end of such shenanigans from other international teams, and we've been there in the past. But I think, to be fair, I think that was a bit harsh to say shenanigans. I didn't mean it that way. I think, like you said, everything the Indian side did was within the ICC rules. Just because somebody's been hit in the head, they don't have to be seen immediately by the doctor, and it was the last over. So it can get to you afterwards, like you said. When you sit down, it can affect you. And the Australians, more than any other nation, obviously has a bad experience of these issues, and they're very keen to ensure it doesn't happen again in terms of anything to do with the ball hitting the helmet or the head. But there were issues around whether the hamstring injury overrided the concussion element, and do you think there was any other options in terms of a like-for-like change? Because, like you said, David Boone, the match referee, said, yeah, that's a like-for-like. Obviously, the Australians didn't think it was a like-for-like, but was there any other option they could have gone with?
Well, there wasn't any other spinner in the side. Kuldeep Yadav wasn't a part of the T20 team, so I think the only option they had was Chahal, and he's obviously, I think, pretty much India value Jadeja as more of a bowling all-rounder than a batting all-rounder, although he's proving to be more of a batting all-rounder over the last few months, including in the IPL as well. But Yeah, I think I'll be very honest with you. If India had lost this match, I don't think a single soul would have spoken about this issue, and not a single person would have had their own opinions, their own thousands of discussions, their own 100,000 debates and whatnot about this whole topic. But just because India won,
Yeah.
and just because Chahal was the one who really orchestrated that win and was the main uh, person behind the win, I think. Everyone has their opinion, everyone wants to have a say about it, but eventually, unless we hear the real story from the match referee, I think it's only right to stay within our boundaries and make sure that we have our opinion, but it just sticks there and we don't come to foregone conclusions because of that.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I think it's because India won that all this has been raked up more by Australia than anybody else. I know Michael Vaughan, as is his wont, he does like to tweet, and he did add his two pennies worth. But no, we played by the rules. It was an Australian match referee, so there's no issues of bias there. And yeah, it was just because Chahal made the difference. But I just want to talk about two players, and it was a really good win. 161 wasn't the highest, but I thought the bowling stood out for me, and a couple of players. One you mentioned earlier, but and I want to talk about Natarajan because I was so happy for him as well yesterday. But Washington Sundar, he had a great IPL. He's been in and around, but he bowled magnificently yesterday, and obviously he's from your part of the world. Tell us a bit more about Natarajan and Washington because they're two players from the south who did us real proud yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Natarajan, obviously, everyone knows his story from where he's come, very humble backgrounds, struggled to make a living early on, started playing tennis ball cricket and then slowly graduated up the ranks. And, he was picked up in the Tamil Nadu Premier League. And apparently, Virender Sehwag was the first one who spotted his talent. And, people laughed at him and he wanted to pick Natarajan for the Kings and Punjab squad. But Sunrisers picked him up. He had a phenomenal run last season. I mean, in this season, and I wasn't at all surprised with his inclusion in the side because people like Natarajan, they really, really want to perform. They want to prove to the world that they're there to make a difference, and he's certainly. He's 29. He's definitely not one among the younger crop, but if he can continue for 4 to 5 years more, he can probably be what Zahir Khan once was for the Indian team. A left-arm pacer who can really, really make an impact. And I think he's a great talent. And Washington Sundar, I mean, I don't think words are enough to praise what he does. To give away just 16 runs from 4 overs, I think it's a fantastic effort. And the way he bowls, his line and length, he doesn't seem like a bowler who's going to pick too many wickets, but what he does is he restricts runs from one end, and which means that the batsmen have to take on the other bowlers, and that's where the wickets come. So he's pretty much someone who plays the backdoor support role of sorts, but yeah, he had a very, very big role in yesterday's game as well, and good to see him do well because I don't think a lot of people are in favor of Sundar's inclusion in the side ahead of Chahal, but Sundar did a great job. And to see Chahal somehow finding his spot back in that 11 despite an unfortunate injury to Jadeja, good to see that the team did so well eventually.
That's interesting. You say that the choice is between Sundar and Chahal. They're different bowlers. Why would it be between one or the other? Why can't both of them play? Or is it because we have Jadeja that you have to pick between them three?
Yeah, I mean, ideally in a T20 format, you have only 20 overs to play with, and if you have two bowlers who are both, bowlers who will restrict runs, one is bound to have a bad day, and you need to have wicket-taking bowlers because if one of your pacers has an off day, like yesterday when Shami didn't really do well, I think he was taking for 46 runs in 4 overs. So you're forced to bowl your top 5 bowlers, and if Hardik Pandya can't bowl, then you don't have another option. So you'd rather have one wicket-taking option and one option which can really restrict the runs rather than have two bowlers who can restrict the runs and then have just your pacers. So I think the common understanding is to have Chahal in the side as a wicket-taker, and I think that's why people were a little surprised to see him being excluded in the first place.
So are you saying they both can't play in the same team?
Chahal and Sundar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, considering that the way the Indian team is right now, they need to have the top four batsmen followed by Pandya and Jadeja. So I think that six possessions taken straight away, and there's nothing. I mean, sorry, 4, 5, 6, 7 possessions taken straight away, because if you have Kohli in at three, you have Rahul. You have Manish Pandey and Sanju Samson at 4 and 5. You've got Hardik at 6. You've got Jadeja at 7, and that just leaves you with four other positions. So I think it's a lot to deal with in the way the Indian team is structured. So I think just in terms of balance, one spinner will definitely need to sit out at any point in time, and that's why I think it'll be a long, long time before we see Kuldeep and Chahal playing together in the same match, because you can't change the team balance. And the unfortunate part is, because Pandya can't bowl much, I think they'll need to find a way to fit him as a pure batsman, and for that they'll need to keep one bowler out. So I think that's the whole reason why Chahal and Kuldeep, two wicket-taking bowlers, can't play in the same game.
And in terms of, you mentioned Sanjay Samson, and I wanted to ask you about him, because it goes back to Hardik quite rightly playing, although he's classed as an all-rounder, but he's playing as a batsman at the moment. Is Sanjay Samson deservedly there? I know I like him a lot. Another young talent, great fielding, but he's a wicket-keeper batsman, but he's playing as a batsman.
Yeah, I think Sanju Samson definitely has some talent about him. A lot of people are skeptical about his inclusion in the side because he doesn't have great records in the domestic circuit, specifically in terms of T20 cricket. And I think obviously Rishabh Pant is a much better bet in that sense, and he's someone who can produce that finishing aspect as well. But I think every Indian player obviously merits a place in the 11. There's no doubt about it. Unfortunately, Manish Pandey, in my opinion, is a little too slow to get off the blocks, and that's not something that's ideal for T20 cricket, considering that he comes in at that crucial number 5 position. So I think that's one issue that will need to be sorted out, to find someone who can really start on the aggressive right from the first ball and not take their time in the middle. As for Sanju Samson, he really has this style about him. He can really switch into fifth gear right when he needs to, and I think he's a good inclusion in the side. We'll just need to figure out how Manish Pandey can try and time his innings better, I guess. That's probably one of the bigger aspects of worry that the Indian T20 side probably has for now.
And in terms of the game tomorrow, you don't change your winning side. So do you keep, Jadeja's ruled out. Do you keep Chahal in, or do you bring in? Is it Shardul Thakur who is being brought in instead of Jadeja?
Yeah, Shardul Thakur has been brought back to the side. I think he did play the ODIs, and he did play the third ODI, and so he's come back into the T20 side as well. But I feel they'll stick with Chahal in the team, because obviously Kohli knows what Chahal can bring to the table, and I'm guessing that they'll stick to the same batting lineup, because they've got batting till Hardik Pandya at 6 anyway. So they're probably going to rest, in my opinion. They'll probably rest Shami and bring back Bumrah. So these are probably the two changes, that Chahal will play in place of Jadeja and Bumrah will play in place of Shami, just because they want to ensure that they manage the workload of the players before the Test series.
And now that we've seen the T20 series, the beginnings of it, and the ODI series, and I think there's a warm-up game before the Test series, and you made quite a confident prediction before the series started. I'm just wondering if your thoughts have changed in terms of how the Border Gavaskar Trophy will go.
No, I don't think so. I'm probably going to stick to the same thing. It's tempting to pick the Aussies to win, but I think India definitely have a good side. They've got some solid players who probably have got enough practice under their belt, and the Australian bowlers are certainly looking a little bit rusty, in my opinion. Mitchell Starc hasn't exactly made a very good comeback, and he was good in the Sheffield Shield, but he hasn't really been good on the international circuit in the last few games. Hazelwood obviously is a big player for them, so is Pat Cummins, but I really feel that India definitely have a good team, and the batsmen particularly to make an impact. And if the bowlers keep away from injuries and hit the right line and length, just slightly back of length and not too much too full. I think India definitely have a good chance at troubling the Aussies, and that can only mean good things. So I'm still backing our boys to come good.
Good. I'm glad you are, because I was a little bit worried that you might have slightly changed, but your confidence is growing on me as well. But just to end on a slightly personal note, I saw some stories this week, and obviously it stood out for obvious reasons, that there are plans to extend the number of franchises in the IPL by maybe one or two teams, and the news seems to be that there's a great degree of confidence that Gujarat might get a team.
Yeah. You should tell me about that, because I already have a team in the IPL which I can support, and obviously, but I mean, look,
Do you
I'm
think the
honestly a very
IPL
huge.
needs to be expanded to 12 teams or even 11 teams, which will be an odd number, but it's a franchise league, I suppose.
I think 10 teams is still okay, although I'm not a fan of this whole idea of making it two groups and trying to trying to make one team play the other four two times, and obviously each team plays probably 8 matches according to what they're saying. It doesn't really. In my opinion, look, I mean, the IPL has built so many rivalries over the years.
Mm.
Imagine if CSK and RCB aren't in the same group. That's just going to seem very, very awkward. Because CSK versus RCB is something that a lot of fans look forward to, and if you don't have that, then it's just going to make things a lot different. But so we'll need to wait and watch. We'll need to see how these two teams are fitted into the scheme of things, because that only means that there should be a mega auction. And I am a huge fan of auctions. I just love the thrill. I love having fun out of the tension that is in the auction room. We can have our own strategies. We can see players moving teams, and to see how teams really build the core around a couple of players is something that's very exciting. So I'm all for a mega auction, honestly, and I think RCB definitely need it as well. So I'm all for it, and hopefully we'll see some really good cricket in the next IPL.
Yeah, and the first point to what you said, I quite agree. I like the league format. I don't think the two groups would work, but you never know. I can see why you want a big auction, but can't wait till the meeting on the 24th. And if they announce a team for my part of the world, I'll be even more happy. I'll be sorry to lose the Capitals, but it'll be good to have a team.
But who would you want as captain of your side?
That's a tricky one, that is a tough one. I've not thought about it. I'm just happy that we might potentially have a team, and once that's confirmed, I'll come back to you in terms of the player that could lead us. But no, fantastic as always speaking to you. It's been brilliant to see cricket in Australia, international cricket, especially with the crowds. That's really made it for me. I've really enjoyed that again. And a lot of talking points, obviously, for the past few weeks. But hopefully we can catch up again as this series progresses. Any final thoughts?
No, hopefully we managed to win the T20 series. I think we've been unbeaten for the last 9 games, and if the show can give us and our Indian cricketers some luck, then might as well do it more often, because I really love chatting with you every single time. It's great to always be on the show and chat with you, chat about cricket. So can't thank you enough for having me on the show again, and hopefully we will talk real soon, and we'll have a lot to chat about in a positive sense if India win more matches.
Oh, but before, I just remembered, I follow obviously your network, Sportskiller, and you've been putting up your 11s, and you put up 11 from, was it England versus India in the World Cup? What was the outcome of that? Who would win that? I don't know if was that
Which
that
one?
one
Which
of you?
one? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
There was I saw it on Facebook, and there's one that stood out for me because it involved England. I think it was the 2011 Indian team, World Cup winning team, against the 2019 England World Cup winning team. And I think I don't know if you put that together or your team did, but what was the outcome? Did you get a result as to what people thought in terms of who would win that game?
I think I'll need to go back and check because I can't really seem to recollect what this was. But if you send me a link, I can definitely get you the answer to that. But unfortunately, right now, I honestly don't know what exactly that is. I'll probably need
No,
to
that
go
was a
back
good one.
and
I thought that was a really good one, and I'll send you the link. But fantastic, brilliant, and thank you again for your time. And hopefully we'll catch up soon. You have a fantastic evening and weekend, my friend.
Thanks again for having me. You have a great weekend too. We'll talk soon.